Welcome back, guys. Today we have another data mine, and today we're going to be doing it for KMS. If you thought the Germans were out of World War II ships, you were wrong. We're going to be getting Bismarck II today, or shall I say Bismarck Zwei, and a bunch of meta ships. There is a lot that's coming in this update today, but also a lot more that was announced in the live stream earlier this week, and will be coming over the next couple weeks. For example, 3 meta ships were announced during the live stream. U-556 meta is coming today. She will be the first meta ship available from the gacha in the game's history. Vestal META is coming with the next cruise mission pass, but she's been added to the game today. You can't get her until the end of the month, but we do have her stats in this video. Algerie META was the final meta ship announced, and she is going to be replacing Queen Elizabeth in Operation Siren, but we don't have her stats or any other updates about her at this time. We also got announced new gears coming to the Gear Lab, including a UR destroyer gun. However, that is not coming today. That'll presumably be coming in the next couple of weeks. Additionally, the O skins for Harbin, Hermione, and Champagne are not going to be coming with this update yet, but they will be coming very soon. Another ship that should be coming very soon is Taiho-chan. However, she's not coming today. Instead, we are going to get Nelson Retrofit, which we'll talk about when we get to that part of this video. We are getting a bunch of new skins today, and we actually have them in totality without any fog like on the live stream. We will primarily be getting the swimsuit skins, those concert skins that they revealed. Those are not going to be coming today, but there will be plenty of L2D skins. That seemed to be a feedback that they got, not having enough of them in past events, so we'll have plenty of them today. And you know, YouTube might have actually liked the fog on these a lot better. Rip ads on this channel. We are also going to be getting Yatsen's free skin from our collab event with the Green Tea Company over in China. I'm so excited that we're getting this immediately. I love these free skins for collabs. I love this skin. And this also means that very soon we will likely in global be getting the Haichen skin as well that partnered with the museum over in China. That's exciting. For purchasing all these skins, we have the lucky bag. Also, there will be a wishing well coming right on a UR event, so that's great. We will have the pity system for this UR, but if you want to use the wishing well, you got to do them at the same time. Also, in the game files, we have some spoilers from the lore. We are going to be getting a new Arbiter. This one is based on the tarot card, the Tower. She's very blue. We're also getting an alt skin, basically, for the Hermit, so that's cool. The special simulator game with TB is not available yet. Not sure when we are going to be getting that, to be honest. Also, starting today, we are going to be getting fleet tech from meta ships. I really hate this idea. I'm not a fan, but I'm just going to have to live with it. But here it is. Here are the fleet techs that you're going to get for that. And actually, this brings us into our event, Confluence of Nothingness, that features the UR Bismarck Zwei. One thing I will note here is that battleships are going to be getting 2 extra reload from the meta fleet tech. Fuso and Yamashiro meta now are effectively things that you want to grind up to 120. Hio, Junyo, and Soryu are effectively the same thing for carriers, bringing an extra 4 reload for them. Looking more specifically at the event, let's take a look at the event maps. At D3, we're going to be dropping our first meta ship. U-556 meta drops from D3. That's kind of odd. Uniquely, actually, at D2, we're going to have the quad gold homing torpedoes, which is actually a really good item. And so I would recommend that you should probably grind D2 for this event, especially new players who don't have a lot of these, and even myself, I don't have a ton of them. I only have a handful of them for a couple fleets, but I might be grinding this and get a couple more. That being said, I don't know how good U-556 meta is going to be. I'm expecting to get her in the shop, hopefully, and just be easy that way, but I'm not actually expecting too much from her. She is a submarine and a meta ship. She's breaking a lot of barriers today, but I don't expect a lot from her. I don't know how good she is. We'll see that later in the video. And actually, that's a perfect segue. Let's get into the ships. I mean, I should probably flash up the event shop, but you know, this is pretty standard. Everything's normal. Those are just gear skins there, so there's no like special equipment or anything. So let's just get straight into our UR. She's back. KMS Bismarck Zwei. Obviously a battleship and a fan favorite of many, especially Sabaton fans. So let's take a look and see if she matches up to New Jersey and Musashi. The original Bismarck was kind of a disappointment as a faction buffing flagship ship, so we'll see if Bismarck Zwei can make up for that. She's a UR, so she's going to have UR stats, which are good, but let's compare her to New Jersey and Musashi, because that's effectively who we should talk about. She's got less health than both of them. Musashi is just a absolute tank, but Bismarck Zwei has less health than even New Jersey. She has less firepower than both of them. She has more anti-air than Musashi, but Musashi's anti-air is not particularly good, and it's significantly less than New Jersey. Her accuracy is about on par. Her evasion is actually really low, so I wonder if she has a skill that buffs that, but like stat-wise, she just seems inferior to those other two URs that I'm considering, you know, top-notch. I guess technically she'd be trying to replace Vanguard, which she does have a little bit more firepower than, but I'd say not off to a great start. At least she does have 155% battleship gun efficiency rather than 150, so that's kind of nice. Musashi already had that, but New Jersey was at 150. Not a great start for stats for Bismarck Zwei, but we can fix that with skills. I imagine we're going to get something faction buffing, so let's see. Skill number 1. The first volley of each main gun salvo is guaranteed to crit. Well, this is a holdover from her original form that has that same exact skill, so that's really cool. She's also going to increase her firepower stat by 10% and her reload by 15%, which is great, and she is obviously a UR stat that we're buffing, but let's compare her once again to New Jersey, who buffs by 15% firepower and 10% reload. And actually, New Jersey starts with a higher firepower, and that's getting boosted more, so more damage coming out of New Jersey. And that 5% reload, like, because of the way that reload is calculated, that's not a huge difference. Now, if it was cooldown reduction or something like that, that would be a really big difference, but it's just reload stat, so not great there. Final part of this skill, when the main gun fires, launch a barrage that creates a zone that sucks nearby enemies into the center. Okay, so it's a black hole barrage. That's cool. I think that some lore nerds over here are going to be really excited about this. I'm a little bit nervous about this skill. Charybdis is the ship that had a black hole kind of sucking, I mean, she called it a whirlpool, but kind of the same type of effect, and I'm kind of nervous that this is going to be like that. Now, there are a few notable differences here. There's about a 33% increased range that her black hole is going to be over Charybdis's whirlpool. It's also going to last 3 seconds instead of 1 second, so those two things could make it a lot better. It's not going to deal any damage though. It's primarily sucking people into the middle. This is something really hard to determine how good it is in a data mine format. It's really something that I'm interested in testing out as soon as we get live. This could be pretty good, especially if it can get you to get like all of the enemies into one spot where you can kind of get them all in CC or have them in an AoE effect, but it's hard to tell, and it does sound like this is going to be her big gimmick that she does. She kind of sucks them to the center, and it could be really relevant for certain maps, but it's not particularly great. All right, let's move on to skill number 2. Equipped with a special equipment Garyon or something like that. That's a translation from the Chinese. This is kind of weird treatment. I mean, it's like a special gun slash like a fairy, almost like how Tashkent has her fairy, I guess. So it has 2 modes, combined mode and separation mode. Combined mode is what it starts in. It starts the battle in combined mode, and each time that you fire your main gun, you're going to be switching from combined mode to separation mode, so you're switching between the two. So the one you start in is your ship takes 20% less damage taken. That's really good. And then your skill number 1 barrage is going to be enhanced. This enhanced version of skill number 1's barrage does about 2.5 times more damage than the unenhanced version, so that's actually kind of significant. Then after you fire that, you switch to separation mode, and Garyon, that special equipment, becomes its own inherent portion to the ship's attribute, and it kind of acts separately. So basically, it's going to become its own unit. So this is going to help her take down mobs and things like that. Once again, this is going to be highly variable on some things of how the AI treats this new fairy. How far up does she go? Because obviously Tashkent's fairy sticks really close to her and will move with her, but like Bismarck is sitting in the back line, and then is it going to move up, or how does it work? So a lot of this, once again, very hard to determine how good she's going to be just from the data mine numbers rather than seeing her in actual action. But we're trying. We'll go on to skill number 3, which I imagine will be a cross fleet because she is a UR. Ironblood ships in the fleet get plus 15% firepower. That includes herself, so that's actually going to be a total of 25% buff to firepower for herself. That's very nice. She's also going to buff the torpedo and anti-air stats by 15% for all of her other German friends. She's also going to get a cross fleet while she's alive, and there is another fleet. She fires a cross fleet barrage that starts 18 seconds after the battle. This barrage is nearly identical to the unenhanced version of the skill number 1 barrage. Does not include like the black hole. And if the flagship of that fleet is Ironblood, that fleet's Ironblood carriers gain 15% aviation. Cool. August von Parseval gets a buff. I guess she needs it now that she's no longer the go-to meta with Indomitable. Yeah, I think like Bismarck buffed the cooldown reduction of carriers in the Ironblood, and even then you still weren't using her. This is effectively kind of worse. It is cross fleet though, but this seems very niche to just Ironblood stands. Like, people were not using Ironblood carriers. The Germans were not known for their carriers. Now, what do I know? Maybe in the future we'll get a new, like, DR paper ship from World Warships. You know, we're getting PR6 right around the corner, so maybe we'll get a DR German carrier that this can buff, and I'll, you know, be eating my words. But this skill is not that great. I mean, I guess the first part of it is just a straight, easy buff. Nothing you have to do for it. She even just buffs herself, so that's fine. I would say this out of the box is not like amazing. Stat wise, definitely not going to be out damaging New Jersey, not going to be out damaging Musashi. I would say on paper, she's not going to even make the top 3 battleships in the game. She's not going to make that like triple battleship assassin fleet that you use for bossing. She definitely is going to be used if you're going like a total KMS fleet. I think her plus Emden is going to be really good. We obviously got the Fate simulation of FDG recently, which is good, and we also have Ulrich. Ulrich is very good too. So like you could have them as a triple backline, and that would be good. And then your cross fleet, you could have like some carriers like August von Parseval and August von Parseval. And is there another carrier over there? I'm sorry, Graf Zeppelin's like not that good. She needs all the help she can get. I don't think this is even enough to warrant running her. But anyway, I would say she's one of the hardest ships to tell how good she is from a data mine, because she's got 2 skills that the inherent benefit of them is not something that's easily seen in the data. It's going to be kind of like, all right, how does that like interaction with the Garyon work? And also like how effective is that whirlpool suck going to be? I guess it's a black hole. I don't know, whatever it is. Anyhow, Bismarck Zwei is actually a very interesting ship. She's very unique, but she's not going to be your top 3 battleships, I don't think. She's going to kind of fill a niche role in 2 departments. One, she's definitely going to be the flagship of the Ironblood faction. That is particularly for waifu over meta people more than meta people. But the second part, and this is going to basically rely on the nuances of how the first 2 skills interact. This is going to be related to kind of crowd control. She's going to have basically the ability to suck units into the center, and she could potentially also have a special equipment that jumps off of her and can like move around and take out things that she needs auxiliary wise. Those 2 can actually mean that she could find a place in specific maps or specific bosses where they're just unique to get them done, which makes her like a must pick up. And she is going to have a pity system like standard URs. So obviously I would definitely pick her up, because this could potentially be really useful for very specific clears that you need to get done. But outside filling those 2 roles, she is not a damage-based battleship. She's not going to be in that top meta fleet that you're thinking these new UR battleships are always coming out with, which I have to say, you know, KMS stands might come over here and groan about how like, oh no, we got the weakest version of the URs, but really she's just different. And I gotta say that it's nice to not just have straight power creep, and it's nice to not just like be like, all right, it's the same thing with a little bit higher numbers and you need to go get it. Like, she's a distinctly different type of ship, and and she's not going to be in your top 3 like damage dealing meta boss fleet because she's just distinctly different. But yeah, it's really hard to judge on her, and I know that's wishy-washy and whatever, but it's really, like I said, that's all I can say. She's really hard. Anyway, we've talked about Bismarck way too much. I know she's the banner ship, the attraction of this event, but we got to move on. We got to go on to the next ship, which is actually the one I am the most excited about. She is an SR light cruiser, KMS Regensburg. This is a really cool art. I love it. The dragon is so cool. I'm very excited by this. We'll see if she's any good though. When I look at her stat wise, nothing strikes me immediately, but I would say the closest thing I could see to how her stats are playing out is to a Leipzig retrofit. She's a little less bulky than that, but she seems very similar to that. Maybe a little bit more DPS than that. She's definitely more focused on guns though than she is on torpedoes. And this is primarily through her equipment efficiency. She's got 145% light cruiser gun efficiency, which is actually a little bit higher than like something Leipzig would have. And she has a significantly less torpedo efficiency than a lot of light cruisers have. So maybe she's got something unique going on. I don't know. She feels like a Leipzig, I think, would be probably the closest thing to compare her to, just to give you a sense of where we're headed. So let's get into skill number 1. If the fleet controls at least 2 Ironblood ships, she counts as 1, so really just one other one. So not actually too bad of a requirement, but she's going to boost her own firepower and torpedo stat by 10%. That's kind of nice because, like I said, for that light cruiser gun, she has good efficiency there. Also, every 15 seconds after the battle starts, lock on to an enemy for 5 seconds, and it prioritizes elites. So this is going to happen at 15 seconds to 20 seconds. It's going to happen at 30 seconds to 35 seconds, etc., etc. Ironblood ships in your fleet deal 8% more damage to the locked on target, and then it will trigger a barrage at the end of the lock on. Okay, the barrage is fine. The part that really sucks here is that it's only Ironblood ships. Like, yeah, 8% extra damage is nice, but it is only to one target. It has to lock on. It's very specific on the timing. It needs that 15 to 20 second mark, which is not particularly a bad mark to be at, especially if you have a battleship with a barrage gun on it, or something like Bismarck Zwei, which has a reload buff, something like that. But generally, it's going to miss out on your carriers, and, you know, it just might not sink, or you just might not have a priority unit that you want to target. It's only 8%. There are other ships that do more, but this one is being locked to Ironblood. Like, did it really need to be locked to Ironblood? I guess they care about their purity or something, but like, man, that really takes the edge off of that, in my opinion. If the locked on enemy dies while it's locked on, she triggers a different barrage. This one scales with her torpedo stat, which is not a particularly strong torpedo stat. So like, okay, this skill did not really do it for me. I mean, it's like, okay, it's trying, but it just doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't hit for me. Also, continuing on to skill number 2. If the fleet contains at least 2 Ironblood ships, so basically the same condition as the first skill, she's going to get 15% anti-air. Kind of funny that they broke it up into 2 different skills like that, but okay. Every 10 times this ship is damaged, gain a shield that blocks 6 shells for 8 seconds. So she's got to take damage 10 times. She's not a super tanky ship. Like, there's nothing that gives her damage reduction so far. She's not a super tanky ship by stats. She's light armor and less than 4,000 HP. Her evasion is not especially great either. So like, she's got to take damage 10 times. Holy crap. And then she only gets to block 6 shells. Now that's like also going to be shells that can only be blocked by shields. So like any of those arcing shells, the ones that are going to do primarily your damage, not going to work on. Any of those like torpedoes or the bombs from the planes, not gonna work. And it only lasts for 8 seconds anyway. I mean, okay. The damage recount starts after the shield expires. So after she gets hit 10 times, she gets a shield. And then after 8 more seconds, she has to get hit another 10 times before she gets it again. Okay, this seems not good. If the shield is triggered while skill number 1 has an enemy locked on, so once again, this is between that 15 and 20 second mark, like 15, 20, 30, and 35. If you happen to be hit your 10th time during that period, which you can't really control at all, just completely random, she gains 5% shield for 8 seconds. So she just gets another shield, and it's 5% of her health. Okay, this skill is just shields, which shields are notoriously not very good in Azur lane to begin with, and this one is particularly a not good shield skill. Okay, and then she basically just gets an all-out assault, and it's enhanced if she's locked on. So she's really just kind of locking on. She's playing a lock-on gimmick, but she's not even good at her own gimmick. This ship was a disappointment. The art is so cool, but I don't think this is a great ship. All right, let's move on to the final SR of the day, the KMS destroyer Otto von Alvensleben. Whoa, she's got the highest HP of any destroyer in the game. She broke the 3,000 health mark for a destroyer, so she's the thickest of them all. Her evasion's not that great. 194 is low for a destroyer, but in terms of like, you know, she made it over 3,000. I guess she kind of reminds me of like a Z46 or something like that, but definitely more focused on firepower based damage than torpedo based damage than Z46. So as a firepower based destroyer, I have to look, does she have a main gun +1? And the answer is no, she does not. But she does have 170% main gun efficiency. That is pretty high to start, and actually is making me reminded of Z23, so maybe that's a better comparison of a ship that she's trying to emulate here. So stat-wise, she's actually going to be pretty tanky for a destroyer, and I think her damage is going to be a little bit less than Z23. Let's move on to the skills. For skill number 1, she gets a 15% boost to her firepower and torpedo stats, so that's going to be pretty helpful, especially that firepower stat. This buff is like just passively there, whereas like Z23 is actually, she gets a bigger buff, but it has to proc. Every 15 seconds after the battle starts, she fires a barrage. After the main gun hits the same enemy 10 times, so she's gonna stack hits, kind of almost like Lemelin or something like that. Anyway, she's gonna deal 10% more damage against that enemy. So she has to kind of stack her main gun hits. That part kind of is not great. You're gonna have to find a main gun that shoots very fast, but you can't like min-max it because she needs to still deal her damage based on her main destroyer gun. So I don't know. I mean, these stacking abilities I guess can work in some PvE modes with some really large bosses. Like 10% more damage is nice, and if the boss has just got a massive health pool, you can just kind of throw this on here. But typically those type of bosses are not what you're going to be running destroyers for, and she's like a bulky destroyer, not per se a damage dealing destroyer. Like there are other destroyers who deal more damage than her because they have multiple guns or they have ferries or whatever. But I mean, we're not done with her yet. I think she's in a good spot stat wise. If she gets like a really good second skill, she could be in good shape here. This is fine. It's giving her boosts. It's giving her some extra damage. It's just not particularly, the stacking part's not particularly great, but she does have a good barrage, and it's coming every 15 seconds. So that's frequent, and you know, you can't not like some stat boosts. All right, skill number 2. She gets just straight +3 speed. That is nice. I mean, that puts her up to 46 speed, which puts her on par with like a javelin. Plus 12% evasion is good. Her evasion was a little bit low, so now she breaks that 200 mark. So yeah, that's going to really help with her EHP. 15% chance on being attacked to reduce the damage taken by 30% for 10 seconds. The way I read that is the first attack is also going to get reduced by 30%, and then every subsequent attack within that 10-second period is also going to get reduced. 30% reduction is kind of nice. It is a small chance, but you know, she's going to be taking a lot of hits. It's almost like, you know, Eldridge is like 5%, but because she's taking a lot of hits, you can get that to proc. Obviously, it doesn't make her invincible, so significantly worse, but it procs a lot more, and it's still pretty good. It also has a 20-second cooldown after it triggers, so in theory, you could have it up half of the time. In concept, you're not going to have it up as much as that, but it's still a good skill for damage reduction. And with the evasion and the speed, she's really going to be decently tanky. This skill is definitely helping with her defensive abilities. And we're not done yet. Evasion rate, all caps, increases by 8%. That's pretty significant. That's on top of the evasion buff that she's getting. And it has for 5 seconds after she fires her all-out assaults. So that's every 10 attacks that she's going to be using. So that's interesting. Additionally, she can equip a light cruiser gun, which is important important because in her all-out assault, if she's using a light cruiser gun, she only needs to do it 4 times. So that's actually really interesting. So she could potentially get a light cruiser gun that shoots a little bit slower, but only needs to do it 4 times, so it could be faster. So that's kind of something that I'm going to have to go do some math on and figure out which gun she wants to use. But in theory, we could throw a light cruiser gun on her, and that could be decently effective. Unfortunately, it doesn't actually reduce the number of times the main gun needs to hit in skill number 1, so you might still want a destroyer gun. You probably do, but it is interesting, especially if we get different. I don't know. We are actually getting a new destroyer gun in the gear lab like in 2 weeks or something like that. So a UR one. So there's a very good chance that that's the gun that we're going to want to throw on her. Overall, this ship is actually not too bad. KMS got a pretty decent destroyer here. I would say like she's probably on par with Z23 if you're running KMS and you want to run destroyers, or you want to run like World 14. I think she could definitely be an include in that. She's not like a top tier destroyer, but if you're limiting yourself to just German ships, I think she could actually make it into something. But that depends, because like it's really hard to displace Emden in a gear, and then it's like, is she in that 3rd slot? I don't particularly think so, unless you're like I said in World 14 and you need something with anti-submarine warfare and things like that. But overall, she's a good destroyer. Like, you should probably pick her up. Oh, and I totally forgot that she gets a 30% boost to auxiliary gear that she's equipped when, you know, she's full max limit break, because destroyers got that buff. And so that can be used to your advantage, especially with that evasion and evasion rate. So she can get really bulky, and with HP too. Yeah, she can get really bulky. That's exciting. Anyway, let's move on to the elite light aircraft carrier, KMS Jade. She's going to be available as an accumulation reward at 10,000 points. Stat-wise, she's awful, but that's expected for an elite light aircraft carrier. She is not tanky. She doesn't have good stats, but her plane loadout is also trash. She's got an anti-air gun, which, you know, not uncommon for light aircraft carriers, but even the planes she does have, she's got a 3-3 loadout, so only 6 planes, 3 of them are fighters, and 3 of them are dive bombers. No torpedo bombers. So yeah, not going to be doing good there. But let's see if she has any unique skills. Of course, you know, she can be buffed by Bismarck. I mean, true, but also a joke. All right. Skill number 1, when launching an airstrike, a random ship in fleet loses 50 HP. Off to a great start. She's hurting yourself when you launch an airstrike. Anyway, she has a 70% chance to fire a barrage. Wait, so this mediocre stat ship is getting a mediocre stat barrage, and she has to deal damage to somebody in her own fleet to get it, and she still doesn't even get it at 100%. Like, you can deal damage to yourself, and you could miss the barrage. Okay, alrighty then. Maju must love KMS. The ship that lost HP deals 8% more damage for 8 seconds. That's actually significant, but it's random, so you can't like have any way to choose or force it. Like, it's gonna be random. I mean, yeah, that's nice. Kind of funny that you have to lose HP for it. Now, one of the reasons that they do this, and this is kind of a KMS gimmick, is because Ulrich and FDG, both when they take damage, get their barrage. So in theory, this could proc their barrages if they're not taking damage. In practice, it's not that necessary. Fortunately, she also heals 5% max HP after the 8 seconds for the ship that she dealt damage. So in theory, she's going to deal them damage, maybe hit a barrage. They get a boost to their attack, so she's kind of like an auxiliary ship. And then she heals back the damage that she dealt, plus a little bit more after 8 seconds. It's certainly unique. Doesn't make her good. All right, moving on. Skill number 2. For every ship in the fleet, get 15% aviation and hit stat. Okay, I thought this was going to be busted before I saw the max 3 stacks. I was like, wait, so we're going to get 90% aviation and hit stat? To be fair, it is going to get to 45%. It can get to 45%, which is, you know, if this was on any real carrier, like an SR carrier or a UR carrier, that would be busted, but, you know, still not doing it for me. If this ship is the flagship, yeah, because we're going to make this ship the flagship. At least Bismarck Zwei doesn't need to be flagship like Bismarck normal does. Anyway, she's going to increase her reload by 15% and deal 10% 10% more damage. So this really is just trying to get her up damage dealing. I don't know. Light aircraft carriers, would you just stop trying to deal a bunch of damage, because you're just not going to do it? Like 3 fighters and 3 dive bombers is your damage loadout. Like, I'm sorry, it's going to be rough going for you. Yeah, so this ship is collection only. U-556 META. She's a submarine meta ship. She's going to be droppable. She's going to be in the gacha. Like, what are these meta ships? She's also the first submarine that is going to be meta. I'm glad that they picked her, though. She goes with Bismarck, and that makes a lot of sense historically, so I like that. But I don't know. I still don't believe that her art looks like her. Like, I don't know. I know people tell me like Queen Elizabeth, and like, I think Queen Elizabeth looks like her art. I think all of the other meta ships look similar to the ship they're based on. This one does not look it to me. Like, when we were on live stream, I was like, that can't be U-556. Like, I see it written there, but I don't believe it. Like, it just does not look like it. So yeah, I don't know. It does not look like it to me. Let me know down in the comments if you think that U-556 meta looks like a variant of U-556. Obviously, they're not going to look very similar. There's some PTSD involved, you know, lore, but they just don't look anything alike to me. But that's just my problem. Anyway, let's look into this ship's actual stats. All right, as a submarine, we only really care about 4 stats: her torpedo stat, her reload stat, her hit stat / accuracy stat, and her oxygen stat. And that last one probably a lot less than the other 3. So torpedo wise, she is the 2nd highest torpedo stat of any submarine. So that's a really good sign. And stat wise, she looks amazing. She's got a really high torpedo stat. She's got oxygen stats that are much higher than other German stats. Typically the Germans have some of the best damage, but they have the lowest oxygen. She has decent oxygen. Like, stat wise, she's fantastic. Even the efficiencies on her submarine torpedoes is 130. Like, she's in great shape here. So like, maybe we are going to be using her. Gonna eat my words from earlier, but let's get into the skills. And I see that she has like 4. I guess one of them is the meta one, but she got 4 skills, so I'm guessing one of these is going to be good. Oh boy. She increases her torpedo crit rate by 10%. Love that for torpedoes. She deals 10% more damage versus light armor enemies, which is actually pretty good because light armor enemies tend to not take a lot of torpedo damage, so your subs can be really handicapped against them, so we'll take that extra damage. She deals 15% more damage and takes 10% more damage in battle just permanently. Okay, so wait, so she already is going to have one of the highest, the 2nd highest torpedo stat. She's going to have really good efficiencies, higher than U-81, which is the only submarine that beats her in that torpedo stat. And then she's going to deal 10% more damage to light armor enemy armor, and she's also going to get more crit rate, so she's more likely going to get the crits, the 1.5 times. And she's just going to permanently do 15% more damage to everybody. So really, it's 15 to everybody and 25 for light armor. She's taking 10% more damage, but she's a submarine. She's sitting under the water. They can't attack her until she runs out of oxygen, which, by the way, she has good oxygen for a German sub. Like this skill, it's very good. All right. Skill number 2, when she's in normal mode, like normal maps, she's going to get a hunting range +1. It's pretty useless because, yeah, that's not helpful. I know hunting range like can sometimes matter, but you can just pay oil and move them, and oil's not a rare resource at this point. Operation Siren, -12% cost to cast. Once again, you get a free one every day, whatever. Like, this is not an issue. AP, not really an issue in upside either. So both of those, man. Also, if the fleet has other subs, so she's not alone, she gets 12% torpedo stat, so still getting higher on that DPS. And when servicing from running out of oxygen, she triggers a barrage and heals. The heals, not that great, but barraging on when she leaves the battle, great, more damage. And we don't really care if she dies anyway after the battle. I mean, I guess like in really grand campaigns could be, but yeah, this skill is not good. This skill is garbage. All right, let's move on. We'll move on to skill number 3, see if that's any good. While in battle, 40% chance when any ship in the fleet is attacked that she fires a torpedo barrage. Wait a second. 40% chance anybody, like your Vanguard, gets attacked, she just gets a torp barrage. There's got to be a cooldown on that. 1 second cooldown? What? how good is this barrage? Okay, I can hold my horses. I went and checked, and her barrage is like only 30 damage regardless of armor type. That's not a big deal. I was like, holy crap, every time someone takes damage at 40% and it's a 1 second cooldown, I was about to be like, this is a broken ship. But no, that barrage is only like 30 damage. So it's a pretty meaningless barrage. If her HP is greater than 20% when this triggers, she loses 20 HP. Okay, this is starting to look bad. So she's going to basically be bleeding herself. She's doing 30 damage and taking 20 damage until she's down below 20% HP. So she can't kill herself with her own skill, I guess. And she will get to heal a bunch of that when she runs out of oxygen, but she is going to be taking, wait a second, does that 10% more damage that she takes in skill number 1 apply to this? I mean, I don't know. 10% more of 20 is 22. Like, does that make a difference? Probably not, but it'd be kind of funny if she's taking 22 each time. So yeah, this went from like, I'm thinking it's busted to it's not very good because she's dealing a lot of damage to herself and not dealing a lot of damage to enemies. Anyway, if she's equipped with Unfulfilled Promise, which is an equipment, auxiliary equipment, or the fleet contains Bismarck, barrage triggers do not cost HP, and she starts the battle with evasion. Okay, well, not bleeding yourself to death is good. I guess not to death, but not bleeding yourself is good. Evasion, not super important for a submarine, to be honest. This skill, not a big hit. We started off so good with the stats in that first skill, and the next two have been okay. And then the last one is just like the standard meta one. She fires a barrage upon entering battle. She does 6% extra damage versus elites and bosses when she's in Operation Siren. So as far as I'm concerned, this submarine is actually decent. Like, if you are short on submarines because you've missed events or whatever, submarines are not a super big important part of this gameplay yet. I mean, in theory, you're going to want them for World 13 and World 14. They make your life a lot easier there. Potentially in Operation Siren, although you can clear everything in Operation Siren without subs once you know what fleets to use and are leveled up. But yeah, subs are not required, but she's actually a good sub for what she is. I don't think she's like the best sub. I don't know if she makes it into a wolf fleet, which is the best submarine fleet that we have at the moment. But she's actually pretty decent, especially if you don't have other subs and whatnot. And now, there's fleet tech, so you should probably pick her up if you want your other subs to be stronger, because meta fleet tech. Oh god, I'm gonna hate that. All right, we have the last ship of today, and really it's not of today because we're not getting this ship until the end of the month, but it's in the game, at least stat-wise, so we're gonna take a look at it today, otherwise I'm gonna forget. And this one is Vestal META, another free meta ship that will take up your dock space and you can't retire. She is a repair ship. As a repair ship, we don't really care about any of her stats except health and evasion, and she's got about the same stats as the original Vestal, so, take that as your reference point. She gets 4 anti-air guns, or 2 anti-air gun slots, with both getting an anti-air gun main shot. This is why Vestal and Akashi are used to shoot down airplanes as repair ships, which is ironic. So anyway, we'll get into skills because that's what we care about. Every 10 seconds after the battle starts, she fires a barrage. Vestal's getting in on the DPS. Let's go. We got a repair ship shooting. Apparently, after she's been repairing Enterprise all day, every day, getting damage, she's out here gonna deal some damage. Gotta get some steam off of all the repairs she has to do. She's actually shooting, firing a barrage. Also, the barrage will mark the enemies for 5 seconds. Framework of logic, ships in the fleet deal 10% more damage versus those targets. Honestly, these sub-factions in the meta are kind of weird. Framework of Logic applies to Memphis meta and Arizona meta. The first one's probably not going to be used very much, but Arizona meta is good. So if you are going to be doing that, you'll be using Vestal with Arizona meta. Really, I think that's the only one. So she's going to buff Arizona meta. And of course, in the future, we'll get more framework ones so that can buff that too. All right, that's it. 10% more damage versus the marked target. Okay, it's every 10 seconds though, so it's actually quite often. Skill number 2, when an ally ship in the fleet falls under 20%, heal them for 20%, so we're still good there. If that ship is Enterprise or a meta ship, the healed ship deals 10% more damage for the rest of the battle. Oh boy. Okay, so I really like this ship with Arizona meta and Enterprise. And that means either way, they're going to be healing and dealing extra damage until one of your Vanguard ships ruins it for you and you heal them and 10% extra damage on them is not that great, and that's only if they're a meta ship. Whatever. Okay, you're spoiling my fun, but basically she's still a heal, just like her original form. So even after her meta form, she gets it. And finally, when she's sorted, she receives 3 emergency repairs instead of, 1. So that's nice. That's always been kind of her own gimmick. And I guess her OPSI framework of logic is a little bit different than other ones. When in OPSI, when versus elites or bosses, she heals the fleet for 6% HP 35 seconds after the battle starts. So it only happens once, but it is 6%, and it's basically during any of the bosses. Kind of weird though, because against any bosses, you're not really going to want a repair ship just kind of clogging up your damage dealing slots, but elites are around and you'll have to deal with them in mob fleets from time to time. So this ship seems okay. I think this could be interesting, especially in like mobs in OPSI and things like that, and with specifically Arizona meta. But yeah, anyway, the 2 meta ships today were actually not as bad as before, but I'm still not very happy that I have to get them for fleet tech. All right, we're finished with all the new ships. However, we do have a retrofit to go over. Yes, retrofits still happen. HMS Nelson is getting a retrofit today, a very old ship. She's getting much needed stat boosts, particularly to her hit stat, which is pretty bad. And now she's going to get a lot more battleship gun efficiency, which will be helpful. Her enhancements to her skills, she's actually going to enhance her Big 7 skill, which is her barrage, from 40% chance to proc to 70% chance to proc. Honestly, 40%, like these days, that's such a low percentage. And that type of barrage is like a dime a dozen on a UR. So going to 70, it could probably go to 100. But yeah, increasing the chance. She also gets a second skill. During the battle, every time the ship takes damage, plus 5% to firepower and hit stat. This stacks max 3 times, so 15% max. And taking damage is really easy, so that should stack really quickly. On the third stack, the chance of her skill activating, the barrage from skill number 1, is going to increase to 100%. It's going to increase by 30%, so she's going to guarantee. Yeah, so basically now after retrofit, she'll be able to guarantee her barrage after she's taken 3 damage, but given that she fires her barrage on the main gunfire, that should definitely happen by the time that she is ready to fire her first shot. Also, at the start of the battle, if equipped with Nelson's Pennant of Victory, gain a barrier. This barrier can offset 5% of self HP, lasts for 6 seconds. So the way that's worded, because the barrier is worded, I wonder if that will actually work against damage that isn't just shelling damage. Like if it will work against all types of damage. But either way, it gives her a little bit extra HP blocking. Although I don't know if I'm going to want to put Nelson's Pennant of Victory on her anyway. It would allow her to absorb some of the Vanguard fleet's damage, which is kind of nice. I don't know. You use it situationally. I feel like that type of item is used when you have a specific setup for your Vanguard. Anyway, Nelson gets buffed, and if you like her and use her, you should definitely retrofit her, but I don't think that many people were using Nelson, and I don't think this makes her like meta or a must add or anything like that. But it's nice to see these old ships get a little bit of boost. Overall though, this event has been interesting. It's not been like, oh my god, amazing. It's not been awful. Bismarck Zwei is still to be determined. There's a lot of question marks about her, and I'm excited to test with her. Regensburg was kind of disappointment. Alvensleben was interesting, not like meta defining, but like interesting enough. They did there. Obviously, elite like aircraft carriers are garbage, and the meta ships were not garbage, but also not super exciting either. I don't know. This is a Bismarck or bust event, really. I mean, unless you really like your German destroyers, then Otto is okay too. But yeah, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was a little long. We went on a rant here, but there was a lot to talk about. Bismarck Zwei was particularly interesting, so we went on a lot of tangents there, but also a lot of new content came with the 6th anniversary of Azur Lane in China, and we had to talk about some of that, and not all of it is even coming today, so be on the lookout for more of that stuff coming to the game very soon. If you want updates on that, you can subscribe to the channel, and I will get you guys updates as timely as possible. Also, I will be streaming this event this weekend. I know it's been a while since I've actually done gameplay streams, but we will be streaming this Memorial Day weekend, so be on the lookout for that. And as always, guys, take care, and until next time, peace out.